Digitization brings so much value on the table. It makes it so efficient, it makes decisions on time without wasting your time or waiting those paper-based information delivered to you. And also it makes it more fair and transparent. So when you have all this information on the table, everybody look at the same source, and once the issue happens, everybody acts same time. When we talk about blockchain and digitization solutions, a lot of people say, hey, everybody needs to join this network, banks, all the ports around the world, and the governments need to accept that, standards need to be there. It's not like that. It just makes it more secure and reliable and trustful.
Hey Tamir, welcome to the We Are DePIN podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, and nice to be here with you.
No, my absolute pleasure. We really want to focus on building a community of DePIN projects. And so when I came across what you guys are doing, it was very interesting, and we definitely wanted to see what you guys were all about. So how did the journey for Obortech start?
Yeah, in terms of the journey, when you always back to the before we just beginning and now in the stage we are now, it wasn't like pretty straightforward road. There was a lot of bumpy roads we faced, and also a lot of things we also learned altogether, not only technology wise but also the business wise and the blockchain and web3 space. So I would say this was the once in a lifetime experience for me, maybe also our colleagues in this project as well, and very interesting, also challenging, but unforgettable, really great memory for us.
Mm.
Was
So talk me through, I guess, how it started. Like what was the light
Mhm,
bulb moment? What was the problem that you
mhm,
saw in the market that birthed the
mhm.
idea that you guys had?
Yeah, and the first time I encountered with the blockchain and Web3 technology was about in back in 2017, and I started learning this technology. And then back then there was a huge trend of ICOs, and then there's also bull market was there and hype is going, especially around the Bitcoin and the Ethereum, etc., and then ICOs on that. So same as others, I also would like to invest in ICOs in early and then have a big profit from it, etc. And then I learned a lot of white papers and studying them. I amazed about the how blockchain technology can bring and change businesses that we are doing every day right now. So from there, it's got me a lot of inspiration. Before that, I was working on the international project implemented by U.S. government and also by the Swiss government and Mongolian government, etc. So the lot of projects, and including a lot of stakeholders, and it's mainly for the international development project, including not only one country, many different actors from different organizations, etc. And then mainly those projects were sustainability focused, more like a environmental solving environmental issues and also building sustainable practices in the mining industry, etc. But in that case, what I noticed is that once you have so many stakeholders in your project, and if your project is so large and complicated, the data exchange and the communication and coordination is the key for the success. Otherwise, if you fail on that, the timeline will be exceeded from your plan, and also the budget will also exceed because all those projects have a very tight timeline and the budget. So it's really important to making sure everything is going accordingly. And I was the planning and project coordinating expert on that. So from there, I understood that the how much important that if you have a really good tool managing all those data, all those communication and coordinating along with your plan altogether for the implementation. Especially on the second project, I was building the knowledge hub to build sustainable best practices in mining industry to share it to the world and also exchange with the best practices. And then it is initiated by the Swiss government, so they want to be a central hub to sharing all this with the stakeholders, etc. And in that case, there was really required the need of the good platform. Back then, I didn't know the blockchain technology, so it need to be decentralized. There should be not one organization to own all the knowledge and data, and also the stakeholders when they exchange information, it need to be stored very securely, etc. So, but we were using emails, the folders, and now Google the cloud folders, etc. Back then, and then I was always thinking that is there any way to managing these all this data in a very decentralized way and efficient, but of course an online based. And then I saw that the blockchain technology and its potential, and then really amazed by it and really interested in it. And then I met with my co-founder back then, and then he worked in the logistics and freight forwarding business over 20 years. He has vast experience about the actual problems in real life and the practical, what is happens or is difficult for international trade and logistics, everything. And he also saying that there's so much inefficiencies, not only in logistics but also in supply chain as a whole, because all based on the paper based. So when you talk about the bulk shipping, especially in the mining logistics, so many trucks transporting bulk shipments of mineral export products. If you have the single issue about that delaying the queue of trucks, it will create very long queue and have a lot of cost to all the parties and the supply chain and that project they are involved in implementing. So he was saying why we can't just exchange information and digitally, why there is a no solution is still not implemented yet. Still people preferring for the paper. I think even today a lot of people preferring the paper-based exchange right now. So we're thinking that hey, if we can implement blockchain and not only blockchain but also IoT and all
Mm,
together, the Internet of Things. So it seems like this is the exact solution for that. We can have the real-time data of the actual shipment and cargo from the IoT sensors, and then bring it in the lock it in the blockchain ledger, then with the location, all the relevant information of the shipment, and let's share it with all the relevant parties, the government, customs officials, and also the transporting companies, buyers, sellers. Then who need those all those paper-based manual and the complicated procedure? Then we let's try it, and then let's start the project development and concept writing process, because we had actual the experience of the problems with our co-founder. I had the passion also. I experienced with the managing a lot of stakeholders and complex projects and etc. And then we come up with this idea, and then it's paid off. Now we are doing our pilot testing with the customs in here with the mining companies, and we see tremendous outcome of implementing this solution. The If our solution is successfully implemented, this current case that we are piloting right now, we can manage to reduce the shipment cost by 10 to 20%. This is so large if you talk about the bulk shipment of the mining industry. So not only that part of the economic issue, but also it saves a lot of environmental issue. Because of the complicated procedure, the mining companies have to unload all the mineral products nearby the port areas for just for the customs inspection, and then load it again, and then put it on to the next shipment. So because of that, so much dust, the produced around that area, so much health issues, social issues, environmental issues happening in that case. So
mm.
this is exactly really attracted my interest, because I also like to work on the sustainable project, not only for uh, economic returns and benefits, but also the social good and environmental good is very important. So basically, yeah, that's the huge inspiration for us to start it and till we are right now.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, but the thing is, the problem of paper trails and the lack of transparency and I guess traceability within global supply chains, especially as they become
Mhm.
more globalized, is not just a problem within the mining industry. It's across sort of every industry that has physical goods.
Yeah. Yeah, when we talk about the food industry, it's a really big issue. And the most of the waste that we are producing around the world is the food is one of the top waste that we are producing. Food loss, food waste, and the most of the food loss and waste coming from is that not during the shipment, not because of the shipment distance is long. I heard the recent study that it shows that most of the time it is wasted and lost and during the waiting time at the ports. It's because of just inefficiency. So it's not because of the long distance. So we longer we have this queue on waiting times neighbor ports because of this manual haul process and all these inefficiencies, the larger we will waste the food globally. And then this is one of the major source of that carbon emission and going in the air.
Mm. And how does Obortech practically solve this problem of,
Mhm.
it's the provenance issue, it's the transparency issue. How does Obortech come in and solve that?
There's a two main thing. One thing is the digitization. So digitization brings so much value on the table. So it makes it so efficient. It's make it you agile to make decisions on time without wasting your time or waiting those the paper-based information delivered to you. And also it makes it more fair and transparent. So when you have all this information on the table, everybody look at the same source, and once the issue happens, everybody act same time. So this is proven by our actual use case that we did last year. We brought German apple from all the way from Hamburg to brought it here in the Asia, in Mongolia, and then we installed our IoT sensors right before that the farm that loaded in a truck in Hamburg, and then we tracked all the way from the turn to shipment, and every stage of the supply chain were tracked by IoT sensors. And same time, we added all the important documents about the shipment, certificate of origin by the relevant parties, like a farmer and the apple seller put the information by themselves on the platform. And then once it's brought in here, we store the apple while we are selling them. And also the sensor was there as well. And then all this process was also exchanged with all the parties. And then on that platform, the seller of the apple was accessed and seeing the all information online. And then buyer side also saw seeing the information. And then transportation company, the logistic company who managing shipment, also they handling the warehouse and those storage, also was monitoring. And then all this information was shared to the end customers by scanning the QR code and seeing all the stories. And then the interesting thing happened is that the same issue that happened in the previous case, that they also did the same players on the same market sold the same product of Apple, but they have a 30% of food loss. So because of why? Because of the lack of visibility on the supply chain, because they haven't properly monitored the storage of the Apple, and then the Apple temperature, the traditional temperatures, mainly offline sensors that is installed in the containers or storage that shows the temperature, how is it like, and the number and outside of the container. So you can manually check it every time how is it going, as that is the most traditional way is doing that. So in that case, we had the sensor inside the storage, and then sensor told us a triggered alert and record on the blockchain, and everybody saw it, and then everybody know, hey, what's going on, and we all saw in the mobile app notification, and then say something wrong in the temperature, we have to do act, and then we called the logistic company, and then hey, check the container, and then logistic company checked the container, and they said it is okay, the temperature is looking fine, there's no issue, and then we said no, 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 this is really something wrong, our IoT sensors are alarming many times. And then we personally go to the container and check it by ourselves and open the container. Then temperature was dropped. Sorry, the temperature was higher. It's supposed to be very low. And then we saw that the number outside the offline sensor was different than actual temperature inside the storage room. So this means that it was the display measuring that was broken, and the logisticom didn't know it. But in our case, sensor was telling everyone it was fair. That anybody can the escape from any faults from there, so everybody know it. And then also one of the important thing about this platform that everybody's seeing is that the German company that sent the apple gave us instruction right away on time, and they said, okay, once this temperature dropped by 1 hour, then you have to do this action and very quickly right now, act now. And then we done it very quickly, and then all the apples safe and sound, and we close the door. There's no issue
Mm,
happened again. So this is importance of one thing, how important IoT sensors is for monitoring this one. The second thing is the blockchain, the platform that everybody can see it in easily and act promptly and on time. That's very important.
mm,
So this is a small case, just one container of Apple, but this is the similar case that commonly happens in supply chain. When there's an issue happens on your, let's say you have hundreds of containers transported to in some Asian countries from Europe, and they delayed at the port side, and then some of the containers inside have a very perishable product, a sensitive product, and then this delay maybe one day later or something like that. And then at that time, maybe that product in that container already spoiled and already late, or you may know it after you open the content and seeing the offline sensor numbers. That will be too late to take action. So that's the real case that happened in the food supply chain that we did with our platform and the pilot.
Mm. That was actually going to be my next question. Is you have a very like traditional industry that's it's been around for hundreds, thousands of
Yeah.
years. Is that it's global trade essentially, but then you have everything's it's been innovated, but it's been innovated in the direction of paper trails, and now it's like
Mhm.
so the question I have for you is why blockchain and DePIN and IoT solutions rather than say just a typical digital solution? Like what's so special about blockchain that
Mhm.
the reason why you used it? Because developing a blockchain solution is expensive
Mhm.
compared to other
Yeah.
digital solutions. So why blockchain over other digital solutions?
Yeah, when you talk about the global initiatives about the moving into paper-based into digitization, it will be a very big topic. A lot of debates happens. Also, I don't think there will be just one platform that ruling everything and one digitized platform that everybody joins. I don't think that's the future. I think that's not going to happen because a lot of countries have different standards and their policies about managing their data and the paper-based solutions, etc. Even some countries still prefer the paper-based exchange, right? So I think if we talk about more global, everybody needs to be like that, and I think that will be too, the far from the practice talk. But I would just talk on the small use cases and the small practical things about the, let's say, when you have to exchange data among the two companies, right? So the logistic company and the buyer company, seller. That's it. You don't have to deal with the regulatory and all the parts connecting everything, banks, all these things to connect to work like that. No, it's not like that. When we talk about this blockchain and digitization solution, a lot of people say, "Hey, it will not happen because everybody needs to join this network, the banks, all the ports around the world, and the governments need to accept that standards need to be there." No, it's not like that. It doesn't have to be like that. That's global initiatives will go. I think there will be a lot of big players doing that, but still, it's really practical and the need about the just between two companies, free companies, about the food supply chain. Any supply chain you want to do. Of course, there's some documents issued by the regulatory parties, like ports and customs. Fine, that will go by their way. But there's a lot of information is being exchanged between just the two company, buyer and seller. That's it. And then there's a lot of information exchanged between the transporting company and the seller, and creating trust on that. So that's also can be fulfilled by this technology. And in terms of the why the DePIN or why the blockchain, etc., it just makes it more secure and reliable and trustful. That's it. And then it's based on the trust. If you don't trust on the blockchain, it will no value in there, because the why we see a lot of surge in the market about blockchain projects in the market, and the Bitcoin. This is why it's all based on the trust, because everybody trusting on that technology and the project. That's why the price is going higher. So same thing in here. If you and your buyer and then trusting this technology, and then it will create value. But it will be
Mm.
much better rather than you send email and they get the email through this, because or if you have an ERP system, just the one organization controls all the database whenever they want, and change the manipulation if they want. So it can create trust. But with the blockchain, in case our solution, we giving the all the members in our platform have a ownership on their data, and also own the nodes in the blockchain and deploy it on their infrastructure. So you can have your cloud account or on-premise servers, just store your information there and put our nodes there and connect with our blockchain network. That's it. So in that case, you have a control of your data, you have control of the network. If the data is need to be changed, it requires confirmation from you. So I think
Mm.
it's much better than just using the one centralized server that is owned by your competitor or the other party that's alone. In terms of the
Yeah.
DePIN, I think I believe the DePIN is one of the perfect example of how blockchain can be implemented in real world and creating real value, right? So I don't want to the say about the word about the the use case like a metaverse and NFTs. We had a lot of hype about the metaverse in the last few years, but the when we see from now is that the in the metaverse use case was not that common in the real life to solving problems. But of course, there's a issue can be solved in metaverse or maybe creating value in business. But when you talk about especially in the supply chain and the problems that we are facing day to day and every day, the actual connected with our life was not that higher comparing with the DePIN. That's my belief. Because once you have the DePIN, the digital infrastructure that this making decentralized for it can be a data exchange, it can be IoT sensors, but in our case, we strongly focusing on the data exchange for the decentralized infrastructure. So everybody controls their own data, connecting with this network through their devices or servers facilities, etc. So it will create a lot of democratic, I would say, the more transparency and decentralization in the supply chain, especially because in supply chain there's always multiple parties interact. There is no single supply chain, just one company do, right? So at least there's a
Mm.
one other company involved. In that case, trust is very important. How are you going to trust if this one company just own the one system? They can change the data whatever they want. Are you trusted to exchange your data and just trust on that? For example, uh, product out product provenance or trusting building trust on that case and building smart contract with that. All that thing is the important to be decentralized.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's hard to talk about digitization in supply chain.
Yeah, yeah. But so from your solution, where does the data come from? You said earlier that it comes also from uh, players within the supply chain, like providing the data themselves, right? So where does the data come from?
Yeah, so the data is added by the stakeholders. There's two ways. There's is also uh, they can add the data manually by mobile app, and humans can add it. The second option is through the API connections, the ERP systems, the in-house systems add the information in the platform. And the third thing is that the IoT devices can add the data once they're connected with the trucks and shipment containers, etc. And then they can connect in
Mm.
the warehouse, etc.
Okay. Is there any incentive as we go from paper trails to more blockchain solutions where, it's extremely transparent, but
Mhm.
then if the data itself comes from a source where it can't be trusted, for instance, if there's any incentive for any players within the supply chain to cheat or to misinterpret data, for instance, that problem would still persist on blockchain, right? So how does the solution get around that?
Yeah, so the when we talk about the blockchain, about a lot of talk comes about the product authenticity or provenance, etc. But blockchain is not a technology to provide the truth or the prove the truth true information or ensure the true information that's added in the blockchain. It's not the technology for that. If the one player add the false information, it will record as a false in the blockchain. So it will convey and share it to other parties as a false information. So, but how the blockchain is tackling with this issue is that yes, you can add the false information on the blockchain. Anyone can add, but it will leave the trace of who added what information on the ledger. And then let's say you can add one time, maybe you are not caught, and then you can cheat others. But if you want to try add another one, then it's create a problem because your trace of the false information added in the past was left in the ledger. And then if the audit is done maybe monthly or quarterly, weekly, and then it will be identified. In our platform case, we you have to prove your identity for adding the information, and also your identity will be validated by your peers in the same network. So the more validation you get in our network, the more trustworthy you will become. And then, so let's say if you are the seller of the product, and then transporting the organization that transporting your product will validate your organization, and then maybe buyer of your product will validate your organization again, and then now you have two validation. So it will go like this. The more organization you interact in our platform, the more validation you will get that they said, I know this organization, I know this organization is legit because I had done a business with them on this platform. So then you did the false information, and then you caught, and then nobody will trust you. So that's
Mm,
the most big incentive in the platform. Will you sacrifice your reputation that can bring a lot of value in the platform because of just one time cheating? That's it. And of course, we since we really interested in the DePIN technology and the solution, the tokenized incentive is another big uh, incentives tools we believe. uh, and then it can also can incentivize many different ways of the actors in the platform. Just one example that I want to mention is that the scoring system. So it can even work inside the organization, right? Let's say you have 10 employees or 10 members in your company, and then same time they also add information by themselves, and then each time they add information, the information will be validated by other peers in your company. And they will say, okay, I accept this information. I agree this information is true. I agree this information is correct. And then the more validation you get, the more have a good score you will have in the platform. Or also, it will also measure your proactiveness. If you act promptly on time, and also you can validate others on time, then it will also affect your score. And then once you reach certain levels in the score of the system, and then the tokenized incentive will done automatically without needing human interaction on this one. And
mm.
this is just one example. There's so many incentives that we can implement in the platform once we have this blockchain-based database, decentralized validation by the peers in the network.
That sounds very exciting. Wow. Last question before we wrap up the podcast, because it's been such a pleasure having you on, Tamir. So, the last question I like to ask every project that comes on the podcast, and it's essentially, what is your favorite use case of DePIN outside of your immediate industry?
You mean the in case of the our project or
No, just in general. So, what's your favorite use case of DePIN generally?
yeah, I think again the we are really believe in the decentralized data control in the whole infrastructure that will bring so many the transparency in the business field, in the everyday life for us, because it will prevent anyone to manipulate or anyone to take over the control, too much centralized focused, etc. So it will balance everything in a proper way. That's our We strongly believe in that. So decentralized data control, decentralized data infrastructure is the most favorite deep in use case I believe in, and I think it will also create a lot of value in the future of the supply, not only supply chain, also the business interactions as well. And also, the just one example is that we want or not want, we already heading this decentralization. If you can just not only for blockchain technology, if you talk about the movie industry. So how the Netflix decentralized this movie production industry, and then result of that is so much quality movies is being made around right now. And also another example is that YouTube, this is decentralized the media industry. Everyone create their own channels. We don't have to rely on TV channels that is centralized broadcasted. So we are already heading this decentralization of the information exchange. So I strongly believe in a decentralized data control with a really, really big use case for the DP.
Amazing, amazing. Tamir, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. How can people stay in touch with you and Obortech going forward?
Yeah, sure. Just visit our website and everything is there. All our social uh, channels are there, and then just search Obortech on Google. Then everything shows up to you, and then stay with us, and then keep updated on our all the updates and upcoming features of the product, etc. Thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure to having a talk with you.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure we'll chat very soon. Thank you so much.